What's it gonna be, Texas or Idaho? You are trying to decide where to flee to, and you cannot decide. You are probably considering or have considered Arizona, Texas, Idaho, Tennessee, probably to name a few. Maybe you're even going as far as the East Coast and going over to Florida. But in this video, we're gonna talk about Texas versus Idaho. We're gonna talk about taxes, home prices, we're gonna talk about stores, shops, traffic, weather conditions and natural disasters, pests, termites, all that type of stuff. So we're gonna dive into it all because we want you to make the best decision on where to live. And obviously we know that's Idaho, maybe, but we want you to make the best decision on where to move in 2022 or beyond. And this is gonna come right at you after this. If we don't know each other by now, if this is our first video, my name is Brian Hymas, realtor at Boise Premier Real Estate, and I have been making videos all about Boise for you so that you can decide for yourself that this is the best place without question for you to move to. And obviously there are some people who watch my videos and think, wow, I'd rather move to Texas. And that is why I'm making this video. We want to find out which is better, Texas or Idaho. There are definitely strengths to both, and we're going to talk about those. And I love Idaho. I've honestly considered moving to Texas as a maybe what if. I'd do it. And this is gonna dive into all that. So let's decide what is the best for you, Texas or Idaho. I'm gonna try to take a non-biased approach to this video. A lot of times my videos are slanted. You gotta understand I love Idaho. I'm pro Idaho. I'm born and raised here, but I want to make sure that you get all the information you need to make the best decision for you. And from the bottom of my heart, for those who have already called, texted, or emailed, thank you so much. There is no better compliment that I receive than calls, texts, and emails from people like you wanting to move to Idaho. So if that is you, you can email me at the email at your screen, brian@brianhymas.com, or text or call the number on your screen, and we will get started on the easy 1, 2, 3 buying process for you to come to Idaho. Make it super simple, a time-saving method that allows you to not miss out on new homes and not overpay in a market where you sometimes are forced to overpay. So we are going to dive into that if you do decide to call, text, or email to get started on your move to Boise. So what's the better state? Let's find out. Let's talk about taxes. I mean, first off, Texas sounds a lot like taxes, so it's probably a negative already, right? But if we look at the real facts, Idaho has income tax, Texas does not. Texas has higher property taxes than Idaho, Idaho does not. On our property taxes, we're paying a roughly 1% for our home value minus the first $125,000 of the assessed value. Meaning if you had a house that was assessed at $500,000, you would take $125,000 off that $500,000, and you'd only be paying about 1% of the $375,000, if that makes sense, if it's your primary residence in Idaho. If you have a secondary residence, you're paying the full 1%, and I'm giving that 1% as a rough number for you to evaluate and assess your taxes. The money to the state government goes to the schools, highways, roads, fire protection, cities, counties, goes to them all. Texas, very similar. The way the government is set up is very similar in both states. I think you'd probably be aware of that. Now, since we're in the subject of taxes, let's go into a little rabbit hole of government. In Texas, they have a thing called city managers. In Idaho, we don't have those. We just have mayors. So when you get an official gets in there named mayor goes in there and kind of hires their people out. But in Texas, they have a city manager who will manage that transition. So I actually really like that Texas setup. My brother-in-law, shout out to you, Eric, is one of those, and he helps with the city down there in the Dallas area. And so I've gotten to know a little bit about that. It seems like a genius plan. Why Idaho doesn't do it, not sure, but it works well down there and it works well up here. So taxes, when it's all said and done, the government needs its money. Whether it's going to get it from a higher property tax, a higher income tax, it's going to happen. One other thing is Texas uses a lot of tolls. Not all roads are tolls, but you do pay money for tolls, and that can add up as well. We don't have toll roads here in Idaho, period. At least I think it's a period. I think it's a hard period. Maybe there's an exception of a one-off, but I've never been on a toll road to my recollection in Idaho, but in Texas I have. So there you go. When it comes to traffic in Texas versus Idaho, obviously, if you're in West Texas or if you're in rural Texas, your experience of traffic is gonna be a little bit different than if you're in big city Texas. Now, if you are in big city Idaho versus big city Texas, you can pretty much bank that our traffic commute times are gonna be a little bit better than Texas's. The average commute time in Texas is roughly 26 minutes. In Idaho, it's 20. Now that's an average. It doesn't tell the whole story. There's gonna be some people who in Texas who live next door to work. There's gonna be some people in Idaho who live 45 minutes from work. It's all gonna average out, and those are the averages. My experience in Dallas, because that's where I have family, is that you can hit traffic, and it's big city traffic, right? Houston even worse, and they actually say that Austin is the worst traffic in Texas. It's Interstate 35 that you want to avoid, apparently. So if you're trying to avoid traffic, then Idaho is going to be the winner. I have had one person say they did not like our traffic, and they came from California. Not sure what that was all about. They actually had an appointment for the next day, and they went home because the traffic on the side streets was bad. Who knew? Yes, it can take a little bit of time. I mean, I can have a 20-minute commute turn into a 30-minute commute to go from north end of town to south end of town, but really that's about it. We're not talking about, stop and go, pull out the barbecue and grill up your hot dogs and burgers on your way home from work in the middle of the interstate. But we are talking about some slowdowns and maybe hitting a light or two, 1 or 2 times. When you want to look at where to go, cost of living is actually quite a big deal, right? There are the taxes, there's the grocery stores, there's the eating out, there's the entertainment, all of that. There's toll roads, but you need to consider all that. When you compare Boise to Dallas, for example, Dallas is about 10-11% more expensive than Boise. If you compare the whole state of Idaho to the whole state of Texas, Texas is actually just barely more expensive as a whole, about 1% more expensive. That has been a significant change in the last couple years. Idaho has become more expensive. We've had a lot of influx of people coming in, and therefore our prices have gone up just a little bit. So take that into consideration. But overall, happy to report that Idaho is the better place to live, cost of living. So round 2 or 3, whatever this is, winner goes to Idaho. So let's review. Taxes so far, maybe an even Idaho versus Texas. Traffic, clear winner, Idaho. And then the third, cost of living, clear winner, Idaho. Stats don't lie. Let's move to point number 4, which is the weather. If you love hot, terribly hot, scorching sun summer days, then Texas is the place for you. If you like mild 4 seasons and beautiful weather year-round, it almost seems like you should be drinking pineapples on the edge of the park, then Idaho's the place for you. In all seriousness, Idaho's weather is awesome. Right now I'm looking outside my window. I'm filming this in the winter, and we're looking at about 45 degrees outside and some rain. So that kind of gives you an idea of Idaho's winters. I'm not looking at a blizzard outside. It's very rare in Idaho to have those unless you're in eastern Idaho, which terrible winters, and northern Idaho, terrible winters. So avoid those places maybe if you don't like the cold, avoid them like the plague. If you're looking for moderate 4 seasons, Boise's got that all, that's Idaho. Now Texas has a fair range of weather. It's so huge, right? West Texas, super flat, super dry. As a whole, you're gonna get, if you're on the coast, you're getting a different weather system in Houston than you are going to get in Dallas. If you are in Dallas, you can see snow. You can see hotter than Hades in the summer. I've been there. It's humid in the eastern part of Texas. If that bothers you, avoid that. Idaho is a dry climate, and so to each has its pros and cons. Some people I've heard love the humidity. Some people love the dry. I don't mind either. So to me, it's 6s. But to you might have a preference on what you're looking for in the weather systems. One thing to consider with weather is if you love tornadoes and tornado drills, I would highly suggest moving to Texas. Awesome place. When you have that siren go through the elementary school building and kids are practicing getting under the desk, that's probably the place for you. If you don't enjoy those things, you might consider moving to Idaho. We don't do those things. We don't have natural disasters as a whole. We had an earthquake last year in the middle of Idaho. That was the first one in 30 years, and we don't have tornadoes. It's kind of sad because honestly, if you wanted the earthquakes and fires and tornadoes and hurricanes, monsoons, whatever that natural disaster is, Idaho's just not the place for you. You don't want to be here. We're too low key. There's just not enough current events. We don't have termites. We don't have a lot of bugs. Not a lot of cockroaches here. Not a lot of chiggers here. We just don't get those things. I've heard reports of a random bug or two. We have pest control at my house. To get serious, we have pest control at my house as a luxury. It's mostly keeping spiders and little tiny bugs out. We're not keeping the big stuff out. In fact, we don't have ants. When I've ever gone to California and you leave a candy bar out on the table, you can have a trail of ants to it, and you have to put it in a cup surrounded by a moat of water. That's not Idaho. I don't know how Texas is when it comes to that, but I do know that Texas does have a few more natural disasters, a few more bugs, and some of that I know comes with humidity. Humidity has a little bit of a bug correlation there. Not 100% sure how it works, but when all is said and done, I'm being a little bit sarcastic with my ripping on the natural disasters, but it is a big winner for Idaho. And obviously, you have to love a certain thing about Idaho. Idaho's a little slower pace when all this is said and done, but give Idaho some credit. They do win on the natural disasters. Weather-wise, you could say the winters are better than in Texas as a whole than they are in Idaho, but I don't think that Boise is a terrible place to be in the winter. We do have some snow days. There is a link below that I have as a comment for the full 4 seasons video that I made for Idaho if you want to dive in on all the way to that. As a whole, you can compare Idaho and Texas. Very similar. We have 4 seasons. They have 4 seasons. They have a hotter summer than us. They also have a warmer winter than us as a whole. So there you go. When we compare the home prices in Texas compared to the home prices in Idaho, you might be surprised to find that actually there are plenty of places in Texas to choose from that can actually beat out Boise's prices. But then you could also say there's plenty of places in Idaho that could beat out Dallas's prices, right? I am guessing, because most of the people I talk to are considering Dallas, that Dallas it's either Boise or Dallas. Now, there probably are exceptions in there, but you can find home prices to be actually very similar between Dallas and Boise. You're gonna find pockets of Boise that are more expensive than Dallas, and you're gonna also find pockets of Dallas that are more expensive than Boise. When we compare city to city, it's going to be really, really hard to compare, city for city, the first most popular city compared to the first most popular city. Just take a general look at Idaho versus Texas. We have $200,000 median home prices up to the mid 500s. If I were to take Eagle's median home price is somewhere in the 800s. If I took South Lake, I heard there's more expensive ones in the Dallas area. South Lake would blow Eagle out of the water. Those are private communities on water with gates, with guardsmen at the gates. Can't really compare apples to apples, but look at some of the cities. The cities in Idaho that are in the Treasure Valley where Boise is. It's Boise, Meridian, Nampa, Caldwell. If you were to look up north, you're looking at Lewiston, Post Falls, and Coeur d'Alene. Twin Falls is in the southern portion of Idaho. It's a couple hours south and east of Boise. And then Pocatello, the Lone Ranger, there on the east side. Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, Austin, Fort Worth. People know where those are at. El Paso, West Texas. Arlington, right between Dallas and Fort Worth. Corpus Christi, Plano, north of Dallas, and Laredo. Because in the last almost 2 years now, since March 2020, that time frame, you catch my drift, prices in Boise have jumped up so high that it's actually can be sixes depending on what lifestyle fits you. Go back into 2019, Idaho, all across the board is way cheaper. So, and if you want to live in the middle of nowhere, let's say San Angelo or Lubbock or Hereford or wherever it is, West Texas, those prices are going to be way super cheap. If you're going to go middle of nowhere, Idaho, let's say Glens Ferry or Arco or Blackfoot, those prices are going to be cheaper as well. So those are just some things to take into consideration. It really matters where you are talking about. When we talk about pro sports, let's just make this as quick as possible. Texas is the winner. Are we clear there? NFL teams, Major League Baseball teams. I'm saying the word plural, of teams because Texas has multiple. Hockey, basketball, they've got it all. Idaho doesn't even have a pro team. We have semi-pro. Boise's home to all those. I know there's a semi-pro baseball team in eastern Idaho. But other than that, there's really not a whole lot to offer. We love Boise State. That pride comes out. It's an awesome market for college sports because Boise is the king of the town. When it comes to pro sports, you've got hockey, football, baseball, basketball that rule. Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, those 3 cities kind of take the cake when it comes to pro teams. If you're looking for pro sports, you have to have that atmosphere. Texas, if you have to have college sports as king, then you'd probably be considering Austin or Boise. Usually people don't really have a determining factor that pro sports are their factor to move here. In my car, I've actually talked to people about pro sports teams, and people have said that it's actually a plus for them that pro sports aren't here. I've never lived with pro sports. I think it'd be awesome to have it, but for some reason they don't see that as a pro. Not sure if you side with that or not. Make a comment below, maybe you do or don't. That's the experience I've had with people, is that pro sports aren't really a contributing factor. In fact, it works the opposite of what I thought it would. So anyway, if you're looking for pro sports, head to Texas. Looking for college sports, you can still get that in Texas, but that's all Idaho has. Winner, Texas. I would have to say that Idaho's public land is huge for Idaho. We have a ton of areas where you can just go out and if you want to go target shoot, you just go on public land and you target shoot. I have never been to Texas to do this. I have heard stories of my friend who moved to Austin. He said that one day he wanted to go out to the middle of nowhere and just shoot targets, and he wasn't able to do it. There was no public land. In Idaho, there's public land all over, and you can do that. So recreation in both places is great. Lakes are abundant in Texas. I'd say more abundant than Idaho, although we have I have 3 within 45 minutes of my house. There's plenty in eastern Idaho. There's Coeur d'Alene is built around the lake. I would say the winner of lakes goes to Texas. When it comes to public land for your own use and hiking and trails and outdoors and 4x4, hiking, fishing, hunting, all that type of stuff, I would say Idaho's the winner. There's all sorts of things you can do in both states. Idaho's a little more mountainous, and so there is a little bit more there to offer. Idaho has actually some great sand dunes. We have Bruno sand dunes and the dunes in eastern Idaho. I can't remember the names off the top of my head. Both are fantastic for taking little day trips to. And eastern Idaho, they go a lot of 4-wheeling there. It's huge, huge dunes. They do some 4-wheeling and motorcycle in there. Bruno is, I think, the highest sand dune in North America. But when it comes to recreation, if you are trying to snow ski or do any snow sports, Idaho's probably going to be the winner there. If you're getting in the mountains, Idaho's the winner there. Lakes, Texas. It really depends on what you're looking for. I enjoy the beauty of both states. I do like Boise, being that we're surrounded by mountains. You can look and you can see mountains almost any time. That's something that's hard to get in Texas. At least my experience in Texas is looking around and kind of getting your bearings straight by looking at where the mountains are. So winner for me on that one is a slight edge to Idaho. I could hear your argument on why Texas is better. Make your comment below on that. Let's talk about getaways for the day. There are actually quite a few more things to do in Texas when it comes to paid amusement parks. We're talking Six Flags, SeaWorld, all that type of stuff can exist all over Texas. Great Wolf Lodge. There's quite a few things you can pay to get to. In Idaho, up north, we have the Silverwood. We have the Hiawatha Trail, which is amazingly beautiful. I would highly suggest that for anybody. It's all downhill. It's amazing. And then we have some lodges and things in Sun Valley and McCall. And there's also a lot of ski resorts you can head to. Schweitzer, Tamarack, Brundage, Pomerel, Bogus. There's also Targhee on the eastern side of the state. I think Targhee's officially in Wyoming, but it's close enough to Idaho. When it comes to places to get away to, Marfa and Fredericksburg in Texas are 2 of the ones that come to mind. And then in Idaho, you have McCall and Sun Valley. You could even go up north and call Coeur d'Alene that same type of thing. Both have those options to get away, little tiny resort towns that us locals in Idaho just love and brag about, but we like to keep kind of secret. So when all's said and done, Texas is probably the clear winner here because there's just so much more. There's mass sheer numbers of things to do. Go pay $100 at an amusement park. Texas has so many options. Idaho has some, but it's got a lot of need to grow there. With population will come those types of things as well. When it comes to schools to root for or go to, Idaho has a small list. Our schools aren't huge. You have Boise State University, which is in Boise. You have BYU Idaho, which is in Rexburg. You have ISU, Idaho State, which is in Pocatello. NNU, which is in Nampa. When it comes to Texas, you got the Longhorns, University of Texas in Austin. You've got Rice and SMU in the Texas-Fort Worth area. You've got the University of Houston. You have North Texas. You have Texas A&M. You have Texas Tech. Those are all big schools. If you are into football, college football, Texas reigns supreme. You've got high school. We should talk about Texas football. Who wins with a high school football race? Probably Texas. They build stadiums. They have huge crowds. It's like a Division I breeding ground. They win, clearly. Sports is a much more bigger deal. But these things come with population too, right? I mean, so like it's a pro for Texas. But you've got some things that, I mean, I love Idaho. I don't know if I could handle that. If you head to high school and your son or daughter is halfway good at their sport, but they haven't spent 24/7, 365 since the age of 3 months old to be good at that sport, they probably won't make the team. Not something I'm looking to do with my kids. I'm very fine with them being well-rounded. So honestly, to each their own. I don't plan on my kids going on full scholarship to any D1 school for any reason at all. If that's the path they choose, I'm all for it. So if that's kind of more your thing, I'd say stick to Texas. If you like that slower pace of life where you might have a little bit more balance but not be as focused on one sport, Idaho's your thing. But I would say Idaho's even more different than it was 20 years ago. To tell you the truth, I'm not sure I would have made the team 20 now. I would make the team now compared to 20 years ago. So who knows? When all is said and done, if I compare all the schools in Texas to Idaho, I'd say Texas is the winner, but I almost feel bad ragging on my Boise State, so it's hard to do. When it comes to shopping areas in Boise and Idaho Falls and North Idaho compared to Texas with Dallas and Houston and Austin and San Antonio, it is very clear because of sheer population that Texas has a lot more options. When it comes to Boise, we have the traditional indoor mall called the Boise Town Square. We also have the outdoor mall called the Village. It's located in Meridian. We have 2 malls. There's not really those high-end fashion designer, very, very high-end malls here in Boise area. I've seen a couple of those in Texas alone. I've seen one of those in Austin. Just by sheer numbers, Texas is a clear winner on those shopping malls. And the same thing's gonna go for big stores and restaurants. When you've got everything that Idaho has, Texas has, right? So, you know, we have the Red Robins, Olive Gardens, Cheesecake Factories. We have a lot of those things, and Texas does too. On top of Texas, Texas has Hutchins Barbecue, so they're the clear winner when it comes to food because barbecue wins, and especially Hutchins Barbecue wins every time. And did I mention they have Hutchins Barbecue? Because that is the clear winner of all the food in all of Texas, in my opinion. I'm sure there's other ones out there. They have In-N-Out, they have Raising Cane's. I mean, those are just a few restaurants to name, but those are definitely, when you come to population is going to take the cake when it comes to a variety of stores offered there. Plenty of great barbecue places in Texas. I've obviously named one, Hutchins, but there are others that I've eaten at as well. Those ones are good too. When I've been to Texas, it feels a lot like Idaho. People are friendly, people are waving at you. You can say hi, hold doors open for each other, things like that. I haven't really seen a difference in the Texas way of life versus the Idaho way of life when it comes to friendliness. I've honestly loved my visits to Texas each time. In fact, last time I was in Texas, I struck up a conversation with a guy at a cookie company. It's not a chain, but it's one of those huge company, you know, cookies huge cookies that they sell you. He actually went to Boise State and played football at Boise State, and he's living in the Dallas area. So it was pretty cool to run into someone. They were just as friendly there as they were here, and I would expect the same for you moving to either place. I want to know what your opinion of Idaho versus Texas was before this video and what it is now. I want to know your opinion via your comment below this video. Sign in and make your comment below. I'd love to see those and respond to those. And obviously, if you're looking to move to Idaho, I am your guy. There's no better compliment that I can receive than from you to get a text, call, or email from you. I also want to remind you that every month I'm going live on my YouTube channel, the third Tuesday of every month, where I talk about the market stats in Boise, and we also do a live Q&A for if you ever want to ask questions that you're just not quite sure if you're moving here, you just want a couple questions to lob at me. We field those as well on the YouTube lives, third Tuesday of every month. And obviously, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell, and make sure you don't miss out any videos when they come out about all things Boise, because that's what I'm all about, is Boise, so you can make your informed decision if this is the right place for you. One of the videos I'd suggest to you to watch is Living in Boise, the pros and cons. That you can see that video up there. I've also got a good realtor friend in the Dallas area. She is awesome, and if you have any questions for her about Dallas, I would love to set you up with her. Email me, text, call for her information. You can shoot the breeze with her, you can shoot the breeze with me, and we can help you out and make the right decision for you, whether it's gonna be Dallas or whether it's gonna be Boise. Let's talk about taxes. Let's talk about Texas and us. Taxes in Texas, oh no. Taxes in both states are primarily used for some of the same things. Roads, let's see, schools, cities. No. Idaho does not have a city planner. Manager. So let me good. I've actually had people, let me just rewind. Be halfway good at Texas, go to a high school and you're halfway good at tech, yeah.